Number 10. All the Hornby exclusive characters, which are Stepney, Flying Scotsman, Murdoch, Old Slow Coach, Dart, and Diesel 261. I really don't understand why these 6 characters aren't remade into Bachmann Nscale yet. I mean, these are some of the most underrated Thomas characters in Thomas the Tank Engine history. However, the main reason why these are number 10 is because a few of them, like Old Slow Coach, are quite forgotten, while others like Stepney and Flying Scotsman do have a chance of being made because they're famous and popular. Not to mention that the Flying Scotsman got a CGI render since the Great Race, which was very awesome. The only one I don't want to be made by Bachmann is Bear, aka Diesel 7101, because as mentioned in part 1 of the video, most non-televised characters don't sell very well, and I don't think kids nowadays would know who this character is. But back on topic, I still think these 6 televised characters should be remade as Bachmann HO scale models because like Splatter and Dodge, they need more publicity so that kids nowadays can know who they really were. Bachmann, if you're watching this, then please, I beg of you, release these Hornby characters as Bachmann renditions, so that way the UK fans can be able to buy them again for their layouts. Oh, and make sure Flying Scotsman's model matches his CGI counterpart too. Number 9 is Stafford. When I first saw this character in his debut episode, Welcome Stafford, I thought he looked splendid because not only was he the first electric engine to appear in the show, but his basis is from the North Staffordshire Railway. I also thought Keith Wickham does a perfect job giving the character a Yorkshire accent. And because I like this character, I think he should have an HO scale model, and maybe a G scale model too, because he's really that interesting in my eyes. Number 8 is a tie between Whiff and Scruff. I'm honestly glad Entertainment and Mattel were reusing these 2 characters for the show because I don't want them to end up like Billy. And not only they were made to sell toys, but also to expand on the lore of the show. And because of their popularity amongst kids, I think these 2 deserve to be made into Bachmann as HO scale models. And besides, I think it's cool to teach kids about garbage collecting and recycling because it helps the environment. Oh, and I think they should make open wagons full of garbage too. Number 7. Rocky. In my opinion, Rocky is a cool character, and it's what makes Edward Strikes Out worth watching in the first place, even though I don't like the episode overall. And to be frank, we don't have any breakdown trains in the Bachmann Thomas range yet, so I think this will be the perfect opportunity to make one in HO scale form, and possibly G scale form too. I chose Rocky because he was the first breakdown train in the show to have a face, while the original breakdown train was non-sentient until the adventure begins, when they decided to turn it into a couple new characters. But this is Rocky we're talking about, and those are all the reasons why Rocky deserves the number 7 spot. Number 6. The jet engine from Season 6. Ah yes, one of the best rolling stock pieces from one of the best episodes of Season 6. And don't worry, this is the last piece of rolling stock on this list. If the jet engine got made into Wooden Railway, Take Along, Trackmaster, etc., why not do the same for Bachmann? After all, like I said before, Bachmann does listen to their fans, unlike Mattel. Anyways, the reason I want this to be made into HO scale form because not only Thomas and the Jet Engine was a great episode, but it would be awesome fan service for the company to make a model of the Jet Engine. Oh, and not to mention, like the sound chips Thomas, they should totally do the same thing with the Jet Engine, just with Jet Engine sound effects. Number 5 is Nia. If Rebecca is currently being made in Bachmann form, why not do the same for Nia? After all, Nia is one of the new members of the Steam Team back in the Bubba days. Now, as much as I don't like Nia, mainly because she's a Mary Sue character, but I believe it is possible for her to be manufactured in Bachmann form because of Big World Big Adventures. And if they are going to do that, then I think they should release her not only in HO scale form, but in Nscale form too, because Nia and Nscale both start with the letter N. Number 4. Sydney the Forgetful Diesel Shunter. The only Class 0H shunters we've got in the Bachmann range so far were Diesel, Airy, Bert, and Paxton, so it's quite possible that Sydney would be next in line. I honestly like Sydney because he's just like Dory from Finding Nemo. The reason he's number 4 is that unlike Splatter and Dodge, who only appeared in the first Thomas movie, Sidney had more than one appearance in the series, as well as being more famous than the other two, so it would make perfect sense if the company made a model for him. Number 3. Henrietta in G-scale form. My only gripe with Henrietta's HO scale model these days is that she wasn't given a redesign with a CGI face, but I guess it's for budget constraints. However, since we have G-Scale Toby as well as the upcoming G-Scale versions of the museum coaches, it is possible for Henrietta to have a G-Scale model too, just as long as they give her a CGI face just to match the CGI series. Number 2. Duncan. As some of you may know, Duncan was one of my all-time favorite narrow gauge engines in the Thomas & Friends series, as well as the Railway series. And since Sir Handel's Bachmann model is coming soon, I think the company should make Duncan's model next because, like the others, he also has a CGI render. I also think he's a really cool character with that grumpy Scottish accent and handsome looking golden yellow coat of paint, which I think suits him more than his original red livery from the books. Duncan is number 2 because I'm predicting that he will be next after Sir Handel's model is finished, which I'm hoping will happen. Now, before I get to my number 1 pick, I just want to give a bunch of honorable mentions. Duke. It might happen, but we'll never know for sure. Besides, he got easily beat out by Duncan due to his CGI render, and Duke only appeared in Season 4 of the show as well as stock footage for Season 7. Boko. I honestly wanted to include this guy on the list, but because some people thought he looked too similar to Daisy, it's possible that this may not happen in Bachmann form, but still, he's a cool and underrated character and deserves to come back in CGI. Derek. He would have easily been number 10, but got beat out by D261 for similar design reasons. Oh, and did you know that he was originally going to be called Paxman instead of Derek? Molly. She would have easily been number 12, but because we're getting a model of Rebecca soon, she's not going to appear on this list anytime soon. Judy and Jerome. They would have been number 7, but I wanted to choose at least one breakdown train on the list, which ended up being Rocky. Mike, Bert, and Rex as Z-scale trains. It might be possible because there is such thing as Z-scale, which is the smallest scale of train in the world, but it may not actually happen because I think Z-scale would take way too much time and money to make, so that's why they didn't make it. And finally, number 1. A couple Nscale Thomas sets featuring some narrow gauge engines and rolling stock. With Duncan being number 2 on the list, I decided to add a few Nscale sets with HO and 30 scale models of the narrow gauge trains as my number 1 pick for Bachmann Thomas toy ideas. In fact, I have a couple of ideas. You could have one feature Scarloy with some coaches and a brake van, while the second one would feature a normal variant of Rheneas with freight cars. That way, kids won't have to buy Nscale track pieces separately, and the first Nscale model engine can be one of the Scarloy railway engines. Once again, Bachmann, if you're watching this by any chance, then please, I beg of you, make an Nscale train set with the narrow gauge engines. I really don't understand why you wouldn't. Anyways, let me know in the comments section on which Thomas items you would like for Bachmann to manufacture. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? If there's anything I could have elaborated more on or could have done better, let me know down below. And here's hoping everything on my list will come true in the end, but I'll have to be patient first. This is Trevor the Blue Pony, signing off.